When the world around you is falling apart, corruption and violence surrounding you, how do you respond in order to ensure your survival? This War Mine is a survival sim that puts you in that exact scenario. Your survivors are battling starvation, sickness, depression, and the game provides you many ways to combat these ailments. In this ruthless environment, there are many who are pushed to rob and kill just to survive another night, but not us. In this playthrough of this War Mine, we're going to see if it is possible to hold out until the end of the war as a committed band of pacifists. We have taken the phrase treat others the way you would like to be treated way too literally and refuse to harm anyone. Rob and steal? Disgusting. I would rather starve. Weapons? Stupid. Who would ever need those during a time of widespread violence? Self-defense? I'd rather die. The rules of this playthrough are very simple. We may not take from others or outwardly harm others in any way, which includes using weapons to defend ourselves from the constant raids that are sieged against us. Will peace prevail? Probably not, but let's find out. With our journey on the way, let's meet the gang. Wait, actually, gang is probably the least appropriate word to describe them. Meet the missionaries. Yeah, that seems a bit more fitting considering our situation. We have Erika, Marin, and Katia. Katia. This bitch. Each has their own unique skills, but most importantly, Katia has bargaining skills. She will be our most important survivor because her vaguely described bargaining skills gives her much better deals when bartering, which we will need considering we won't be able to steal from anyone. We spend our first day cleaning up the shelter. We remove some piles of rubble, collect some material that's laying around, and even get our workshop and radio built. It is wintertime, and if you take a quick little look at the top of the screen, it's cold as fuck. It's 30 degrees. And yeah, I set the temperature in Fahrenheit. Go America, I don't want to hear it, you freaking Europeans. This is a problem, because being too cold equals increased chance of getting sick. And because medications are so rare, we would like to avoid that. Luckily for us, we actually start the game with a heater, and with some fuel thrown in there, the temperature begins to slowly rise. And outside of Erika's constant complaining, the first day goes without any hitches. During the night, we send Marin out to collect some materials at a nearby gas station, while the others get some sleep. The gas station visit was a success, and we had no unwanted visitors back at the shelter. Apparently, a cold floor doesn't result in the greatest sleep quality, so we made some beds using the material we gathered thus far. We also removed the remaining rubble and loot anything we didn't get to during the first day. Everyone is already hungry, so I had Marin set up a trap for catching rats. A slow process, but it would only help in the long run since food would no doubt be an issue. Katia got bored, so she started building a snowman. Meanwhile, Erika tried telling me about her dad, but I couldn't relate, so I just ignored her. We end the day by making sure everyone eats, and since our fuel supply is plentiful, we run the heater at max capacity. We send Katia back to the gas station since it's a safe place with a large quantity of supplies, and Marin and Erika get to be the first ones to try out the new beds. Katia's supply run goes well, and once again, there is a quiet night at home. Honestly, entering day 3, I'm feeling pretty good. I didn't expect to make it this far without any violence going down. We start the day by building a stove, which allows us to cook our food. Cooking food requires fresh water, which can be accumulated by collecting snow from outside and boiling it. Around 9 o'clock, we hear a knock at the door and meet Franco. Katia makes quick acquaintance, and we trade with Franco. Franco will periodically stop by after every few days, and it is crucial that we make the most out of each of his visits. These visits are the only time during the day to trade for new supplies, and unlike trading at night, we have access to our entire base inventory and aren't limited to what we can carry. While Erika is boarding up some of the holes in our shelter, Katia uses her talents to get us a sweet deal on some parts, which we immediately use to build the moonshine still. Moonshine has pretty good trade value, so we want to start stockpiling it as quick as possible. We send Katia to the gas station for a second consecutive night, and it goes just as well as the last visit. Yeah, I didn't expect that would last forever. So while Katia was out scavenging, some raiders tried to hit a lick on our house, and even without weapons we... Okay, so apparently they're counting a shovel as a weapon, and honestly I see it, but I didn't notice that until a few days later and I wasn't about to start over. So for the sake of this video, the shovel will be ignored as a weapon, but this will not apply to axes, knives, or anything else that actually has the appearance of a weapon. If you don't like that, I completely respect that, and I should have did a better research, but that's in the past and I have a video to keep editing, so I'm just going to get back to the video. Fortunately, no one was injured in the attack, and the looters got away with nothing. Unfortunately, this would only signal the beginning of a constant barrage of raid attempts on our shelter. On day 4, we had a neighbor stop by and ask for help boarding up their house, so we sent Erika out to help because I seemed to be on par behavior for the saints we're claiming to be. She successfully helped the neighbor and returned a day later, but while she was gone, we were raided once again. And while they didn't get anything, Marlon, who was home alone at the time, got wounded in the attack. Our once plentiful fuel supply has also dwindled, and we're struggling to keep the place warm. We pull off our best Fahrenheit 451 impression and burn some books, just to have a little bit more fuel for the heater. That night when we're out scavenging with Erika at the supermarket, we run into a soldier trying to utilize his own variation of bargaining skills on a distressed woman. Clearly both parties consented in this arrangement, so I kept my nose out of it. I'm just kidding. After seeing this chick get the beats laid on her, I tried to formulate how I was going to help, but I was almost certain this soldier was armed, and obviously there is no way for me to hurt this guy. Maybe if I just tried talking to him. Yeah, I don't think this guy's in the mood for talking. I'm gonna go. It might have looked like I was scared, but I dare this guy to show his face again. Okay, sir, yes, I'll be leaving. Man, that was a rough night. Hopefully everything at home went alright. So Marin got wounded again, and Katya is sick. Can't imagine what contributed to that. But according to the game, I actually saved that girl? So I guess there was some good that came out of that night after all. The man on the radio mentions violence of soldiers against civilians, but I don't believe that for a second. Using the supplies Erika brought back, she is able to construct the herbal workshop, which can be used to make her own cigs. Fitting, considering this chick is addicted to them. Oh yeah, I haven't mentioned it, but each survivor has either a coffee or a cigarette addiction, and gets sad if they don't get their daily fix. And considering I've had neither of these this entire run, this will surely start to negatively impact our survivors. Franco stops by again, and I have to trade away all of my booze just for some wood to use as fuel to keep everyone from freezing to death. His prices were a little bit too steep for me, so I sent him away and let Katya and Marlon rest to help them recover. We're raided another 2 nights in a row, and Katya gets wounded in both of them. The only good news is that nothing was stolen, but that is immediately nullified by the news that now Marlon is also sick. I don't really know how to keep the place any warmer considering that I have had the heater running at all times already, so I built a second one on day 8. I think this actually helped, but I would be lying if I said I'm positive. We've revisited the supermarket on both nights 7 and 8 because my people were borderline starving and the violent soldier has since left, making it a safe place to scavenge. Day 9 begins with the not so great news that we've been raided for the 3rd night in a row, but luckily no one was harmed this time around. Unfortunately, despite 2 heaters running, Erika still managed to get sick.
I'm dying. Help me.
I ran out of medication and bandages days ago, but whenever someone is only slightly sick or wounded, they can typically heal up with an adequate amount of rest. Rest, which Katya would not be afforded because Franco is here and I need her to work her magic. And work her magic is exactly what she does. After bartering with Franco, we are able to craft another small animal bait trap, some cigarettes for Erika, and cook a hot meal. Not quite ready to take any risk again, I send Katya back to the supermarket to continue scavenging everything we can get our hands on. Erika is still sick the next morning, but at least Katya got a decent haul from the night before, and we're actually left alone by the raiders for a change. Our neighbor returns once again, asking for help with some shady folk, and I agree to send Marlon to help her out. It's probably the same assholes trying to pillage us every other day. We have plenty of parts, but the lack of wood is making it really difficult to keep the shelter warm. With Marlon out helping the neighbor and Erika sick, I decided it's best to skip on the scavenging for the night. This probably worked out for the best because once again, our base was raided. But fortunately, there were no injuries or belongings stolen. And not only did Marlon successfully help our neighbor, but day 11 also marks the end of the cold winter, which has really been the bane of my existence this entire run thus far. And it couldn't have come at a better time, considering I only had enough fuel to barely run 1 heater at this point. However, because of the change in seasons, I am no longer able to melt snow to create fresh water. Meaning, I currently have no reliable way of acquiring fresh water for cooking or distilling moonshine, outside of trading or scavenging. But that is a problem for tomorrow, and considering Katya managed to get sick on the last day of winter, it felt appropriate to spend another night staying at home. The night was quiet, but Marlon clearly didn't get the memo about winter ending, and he also got sick. It is actually kinda cold considering this is supposed to be the end of winter, so they might actually have a point. Marlon isn't looking so hot, but fortunately for him, Franco stops by, and we're able to make some phenomenal trades using all the ammunition we have no use for. I'm sure Marlon prefers some medication in a time like this, but at least we're able to get some cooked meals. The next few days are honestly quite uneventful. We successfully defend against a raid on night 12, and for days 13 through 16, we have no raid sieged against us. During this period, we collect enough materials to build 2 rain collectors, which when combined with a filter, provide a reliable and renewable way of collecting fresh water. The consecutive peaceful nights in addition to the massive trading we conducted on day 15 put us in the most comfortable position we've been so far. Hunger was becoming less of an issue, and nowadays it was rare to see the house temperature drop below 60 degrees. A guy named Voight stops by asking for some help looting an abandoned house, but he kinda sussed me out, so I told him to kick rocks.
Bye, have a great time.
I wasn't too happy about having to do that, but I couldn't tell if he was trying to con me into performing a robbery of some sort. We successfully defend against another raid that night and spend day 17 not really doing much of anything. We hear the man on the radio talk about the price of coffee, but unfortunately for Marlon and Katya, they never really had any in the first place, and now that certainly won't change. But the most important discovery of the run happens on the 17th night. For this night, Katya went scavenging at the port. Firstly, the port was loaded with material to scavenge, with no danger in sight, which made it the perfect location for making multiple return trips to. But on the far end of the port, we meet a smuggler who offers to take us out of the city, but for a cost. He doesn't really specify what the cost will be, but a service like that can't be cheap. Everyone in the group has some reservations about trusting this guy, but across the board, the sentiment is that we should take this guy up on his opportunity. But with no clear direction on what the payment method will be, we're just left to wait and stockpile what we can, in the hopes that is what he's looking for. My immediate vibe is that a guy like this might want guns in exchange for taking us out of the country, so we upgrade our metal shop, which now gives us the ability to repair weapons. Obviously the use of weapons is beneath us, but though it may scuff our morals a little bit, we aren't opposed to selling them per se. I'm starting to think we're not really pacifists and we're just enabling crime. Anyways, Franco stops by again, and because we're such good people, we give him back some body armor we found at the port in exchange for tobacco and parts. Tobacco, which we will turn into an astronomical amount of cigarettes, which we will use to trade with the soldiers, who are the ones killing civilians, which is the reason why there's a civil war. So the next night, without a shred of guilt, I stopped by the military outpost with all the cigarettes we made and was able to get a large quantity of fresh water and some canned food for the crew. Hey, I thought that smuggler guy said he would be in touch. It's kind of been a few days. Oh shoot, guys, this is the moment of truth. What could this guy want? What's your vice, man? I got you. Cigs, booze, guns, Katya's bargaining skills, whatever you need, dog, I got you. What? Jewelry? What do you need with 8 pieces of jewelry, man? There's a literal war going on, and what economy is that going to do anything for you? Well, it's safe to say we didn't leave with Corel that day. Jewelry is one of those items which has no value outside of trading, so it's the first thing I was looking to barter off whenever I got it. The item and the sheer quantity that Corel is looking for makes this a very difficult request to meet, but it does appear to be a guaranteed way out of here if he's a man of his word. Armed with nothing but determination and a backpack full of moonshine, Katya explores Central Square in hopes of finding a trader who's selling jewels. Unfortunately, these guys aren't morons and aren't trying to sell something that's completely useless. We barter for what we can, and while we end up with a very good haul, we aren't any closer to getting that boat ride to freedom. Oh yeah, we have a 4th person now, by the way. Or stopped by a few days prior on day 19, wounded and looking for a place to stay. We let him stay with us, but I wanted to make sure he was going to survive before I wasted any lines of the script mentioning him. We don't have any bandages, and he is still bleeding, but our neighbor stops by looking for some help looting a humanitarian drop, and maybe we can find some there. I could have been trading for bandages this entire time, but the radio man is telling me that medical supplies are up in price, and I just met this guy, so my conscience will remain completely clear if he bites the dust. We return with Katya to Central Square in the hopes of finding some jewels in the building on the far side. The door is locked, and that guy most certainly does not look friendly, but I came prepared with a lockpick. Just let me do a little bit of... We're in. Now we just need to sneak downstairs and... Wait, what? Who are you? We can talk, okay? Okay, no talking, I get it. I'll be leaving now. I guess I would just settle with transporting my stash that I have here back to my base instead. Oh, great. Now Marlon is wounded too, and Arika didn't come back with any bandages. But don't worry, guys. We have coffee. What the fuck are you guys sad for? Yeah, you might have got a shot, but look at the food.
Oh, yeah.
I even have coffee now. While everyone is bitching and moaning, Franco stops by, and we get rid of some of our food to get supplies for building the alcohol distiller, since these clowns don't appreciate having it anyways. With the distiller, we can now distill moonshine into alcohol, which has even more trade value. Our new goal is to build a trading empire off the backs of alcohol and tobacco, the American dream. with the eventual goal of becoming so wealthy that scavenging for resources is no longer required because I can trade for all the essentials and just spend my nights looking for jewels to give to the smuggler. The smuggler drops by again on the 24th day, and while we have no jewels still, our shelter is becoming a paradise. No longer are the days where we don't know where our next meal is. No more freezing nights. All uncertainty is slowly fading away. We will escape, guys. We will find these jewels if it's the last thing we do. We must stick together because there is no telling when this war is going to end. Are you kidding me? Already? What about all the planning? What about the crime wave uprising? What happened to that? Can y'all go back to killing each other, please? I had this all planned out. Yeah, so it's safe to say that was anticlimactic. The ceasefire happens after a randomized number of days, but I never would have guessed it would have been this soon. In the first playthrough I actually survived the war, it took 45 days, and I had multiple people dying and I was barely scraping by each night. But I can't decide when we get lucky, I guess. But to answer the original question that was asked, yes, you can beat this war of mine as a pacifist. While we certainly got lucky, there's nothing you can really do about that. I really do enjoy this game and its random elements, and maybe next time I'll go for a genocide run and see how that goes. But that's enough for today, and I'll catch y'all next time. Peace.